Good afternoon, everyone. Today I stand here in front of you truly, truly honored to be able to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Carl Stanley Moore. I've known Carl, I've had the pleasure of knowing Carl for the past 15 years. I'm talking about back in the day when everyone knew him as just Doobie. That Doobie. I can honestly say that Doobie, he has a great spirit. He is one of the more inspiring, one of the more uplifting folks that I've ever met in my entire life. The way I describe his personality, and I can describe Doobie, Carl Moore, Dr. Moore, and to say that he is just basically high on life. His spirit is amazing. He's very welcoming. I encourage you guys to come up and meet him after he speaks today or later today. But just overall, just a great individual and a great guy. So I would like to read his bio very quickly. Dr. Carl Stanley Moore, aka Doobie, is a Norristown native, having attended Stewart Middle School and graduating from Norristown High School with the class of 1999. In high school, he was a part of the football, track, and Eagles News teams. He joins us from University of DC, where he is a newly minted associate professor in a research academy for integrated learning at University of DC. Prior to his current role, he served as an adjunct assistant professor in the College of Education, as well as the assistant director of Teaching and Learning Center at Temple University. Carl earned a doctorate of education in urban education from Temple University and a master's of arts from the Ohio State University in higher education administration. His dissertation investigates how exemplary college faculty employs universal design for learning principles in their teaching practices. Carl has been teaching for over 12 years and has created and instructed a variety of courses in education at Temple, Cabrini, and Arcadia University in both face-to-face and online formats. Prior to his career as a faculty member doing faculty development work, Carl served in a number of student services roles that focused on providing individual and institutional support to retain and advance the success of college students. These roles include at the Community College of Philadelphia, Director of Student Success Initiatives, at Temple, Associate Director of Vox Advising, also at Temple, Assistant Director of Multicultural Education, at Kutztown University, Upward Bound Trio Program Director, a self-described social justice advocate and techie. The sum of Carl's passions lies in the development programs on teaching with technology and inclusion of higher education. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Carl S. Moore to the podium.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, Dougie. Thanks, Dougie. No, I had to get you back in some way. I should say, is it good evening now? Let's see what time it is. Well, good day to everyone. I'm just truly honored to be here to share with you just my experiences and some of my thoughts. So I really appreciate you all being here. And but before I say much more, I really don't think this is going to happen throughout this event if I don't do this right now. I want us to really put our hands together for the Norristown Men of Excellence. Just think about this event. I'm looking around. Amazing. And I remember when my brother Trey, well, I don't know what Trey is, I remember when he pulled us together in an Eisenhower meeting room, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? 3 years ago, pulled brothers together, and then the rest is history. So I just want to salute all of the brothers that are, you are on the front lines every day in the community doing your thing. And I really look up to you all and admire you. When I come back and you're like, oh, I'm glad that you're doing your thing in education, etc. I just want to let you know that I have even more respect for you and admiration for what you're doing. And yeah, so just give it up for them one more time. So I usually like to walk around the room when I'm doing presentations, but I think that, sometimes people can get a little dizzy, so I'm just going to stay right here, because as Doug was saying, in terms of my energy. But all of what Doug has shared with you about me, I could not have done, and I know it may sound cliche, but it's very true, without the community from which I'm from. And the community which I'm from, which is Norristown, then extended to a community which was Kutztown, then extended to a community which was Ohio State, and extended to a community which was Temple. So I was able to kind of put bits and pieces onto myself and assemble myself in such a way to continue to try to get through, the gauntlet of life. Everyone knows here how life can get. But today I wrote a piece for you so that it can really kind of highlight my experience as that kid from Norristown who benefited and is where I am with these accolades. The accolades don't mean anything without the actual community. So I want to share this piece with you, which really is it's called In Town. And when I was reading it to my wife, she's like, "Oh, that's like an ode to Norristown, so we can call it the Ode to Norristown." And I remember on the track bus or the football bus or whatever, Trey would say, "Hey, go freestyle," and would encourage that. So I've been able to use those talents to write articles and book chapters now. But that those same nuggets of being able to put words together, they were able to apply in an academic sense as well. So don't discourage those kids as I know that you all are doing. But this piece is called In Town. So I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to share with you some of the other pieces I have for you today. They used to say it takes a village to raise a child. Still some wonder, is there truth in that? A proud product of my environment. Yes, I'm proof of that. The stars of the Norristown skies, that's where my roof was at. And I know they say 80% chance that people like me won't make it. Man, that's a ruthless stat. So I defied the odds. Lightning rods was my papers, books, and pens. But it was you, Norristown, and the community members that made me look in. So I sprinted from the track to the classroom, blazing. Being involved in class, of course, my hand I was raising. So at times I backpedaled, but through the gauntlet, I made it. Never forgetting Norristown and the seeds and who actually made it. So they say it takes a village to raise a child, and some still wonder, is there truth in that? But a proud product of my environment, yes, I'm proof of that. So that's my ode to Norristown. And thank you. And what's funny is I know you all had a few poets last year, right? So I'm not going to do another piece. I figured some of you know that there were a couple pieces done. I wish I was here because I love hearing poetry. But really, I think for me to kind of go through the lines, it really highlights the impact that you all have on students, that you have on kids, that you have on your nieces and nephews every day. Me, I'm not here in front of you as a person who is just a person who's gone through and obtained their master's degree, 2 master's degrees, or whatever, etc. I'm a son, right? I'm the second youngest of 6 children. My mother's right here. I'm a brother. I am an uncle of 5 nephews and 4 nieces. All of these are pieces that actually help me continue to add these muscles that I'm able to apply in my professional work. So when I say that there is, it takes a village to raise a child, the fact that people still wonder about that is something that worries me. It's something that I really wanted to underscore, because quite certainly does a village still raise a child. Our villages may not still look like they did in the past. But if you see the next line that I say, I'm proof of that, because the Norristown skies, the stars in the Norristown skies are where my roof was at. So, breaking down lyrics, as any person who likes to, write does. I wasn't raised just in my home. I was raised in Norristown. Not under my house, but I was raised by having adults like Mrs. Dobbs or Mrs. Ellis that actually invested in me and looked at me and gave me like a warm smile. Sometimes that made a big difference for me as a youngster, Because when you're young and you're coming up and you're adversarial to the adults, they don't necessarily we don't recognize the impact that has on kids. But I'm living proof that having the warmth of the football coaches and the Mr. Hadricks and the individuals that were able to kind of reach back to us, that's where I was raised. So I say the Norristown Skies. So you all who are involved in the community every day, I know it may be a tough road sometimes, and sometimes it seems like the kids aren't listening, but I was that kid that was listening, and I'm pretty sure there are many others that are listening. So I just give my hats off to individuals who are every day in the trenches, planting those seeds. So the next piece that I have here, it says 80%, and I know that might not be the exact stat, but it went with my poem. 80% chance that, they say before the age of 25, a black man is supposed to be what? Dead or in jail. But this next piece that says, defy the odds, lightning rods, my books, papers, and pens. It's, just play on word. I think that's a pretty cool line. I don't know about you all. It's pretty dope in my opinion. No, I'm just kidding. But in terms of defying the odds, when we think about these stats that are stacked against our students or stacked against our community, what are we going to do about it, right? We have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do about it? What I decided to do about it was educate myself. What I decided to do is continue to move in a way where I was able to be a part of the solution. As Brother Hakeem put up the quote earlier, and that really resonated with what I was thinking about, how can we be a part of the solution? But through education. I'll get into this a little later, but there's a lot going on in our community at this day and age, but we have to think about that. How can we be a part of the solution? So just get through the remainder of this, because this really highlights all of the aspects of how I was able to make it through in Norristown. So it says, but Norristown made me look in. What I experienced, and this is more for some of the younger folks out here, and you can deliver this message to the younger folks. It's very easy to complain. Raise your hand if you know somebody who can complain really well but don't have any solutions. Okay, as we know. It's very easy to complain about your environment, but you don't always have to be a product of your environment. So when I was looking out into Norristown growing up, I was recognizing, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of his leadership, a little bit of his savvy, and I'm going to be the exact opposite of that over there. And we have the opportunity to do that. We have the opportunity, even in our professional lives, to do that. Be the change you want to see in the world. I know you've seen that. So I was able to, through my experience, I can't neglect my experiences. Through my experiences, see, wow, this is the tenacity that I need to get through life. And what's interesting is that this next piece that says, so I sprinted from the track to the classroom blazing. I know that some of you, we ran track together, we were on a football team together, but a lot of what motivated me to continue to be involved in education was because I recognized at an early age that I wasn't going to the NFL. They didn't get any playing time, I was on the bench. I was the best bench warmer, right, Doug? I was real good. I would be like, yeah, I was cheering and everything. But, and I really do think I'm a pretty awesome D-bag. I think I'm like D1 NFL material. But it's cool, that's not something to talk about right now. But when I say sprinting from the track to the classroom blazing, I was able to use a lot of what I learned in sports and apply to class. As we all know right now, a lot of the, kind of stick to it, a lot of the mental muscles, the muscles that kind of continue to be persevering, I was able to use that. But I wouldn't have had that without the community members that were teaching me that. Without the Mr. Hadricks or Ernie, when they would say, another lap, right? That's the late nights in college where it's another lap. So I just wanted you all know that those things made a difference for me. I would reflect on my experiences in sports all the time when going through all of my education. And it says that, being involved in high school, of course, my hand I was raising, but the involvement in high school really helped me move forward into knowing that you are as good as you are invested in what's happening and in your community. So being involved in high school prepared me because I was not a person that just went to college and knew. I was a first-generation college student. Raise your hand if you're a first-generation college student in here. So there was no one to show me the ropes. How I knew about the ropes was from the advisors and the individuals who were volunteering in those communities. So for me, I really owe a lot of, I owe everything to the community, in addition to my family. And that's why individuals that are out here today, I really appreciate you all. I remember when I was in college, and there was actually this even happened in high school, where Mr. Hadrick said, yeah, man, you keep your grades up, you can get to college. I was like, oh, college? I wasn't thinking about college prior to that moment. I wasn't thinking about the 3.0 prior to that moment. The same thing happened to me in grad school. Now, had I not been involved in track or connected to the community in that way, I wouldn't have had that brief nugget of wisdom. When I was in college, I had a 1.67 my first semester. Trials and tribulations of, that's why it says I backpedaled through the gauntlet, but I made it. And I actually had a faculty member as a mentor, one of my groups that says, it was KU Emerge, said, Carl, if you keep your GPA over a 3.0 or get it close to that as possible, you're going to Ohio State. And I'm like, oh, I can go to Ohio State? And surely enough, I kept my GPA up, I went there, and I was able to then move through, and the rest is history. And that really changed my life, just that one moment, that one seed that he planted. So we all have these seeds that we plant in individuals to kind of help them get to where they are. So that one seed changed my life, because at Ohio State I met individuals and my community began to grow more. So I think one of the other pieces that, if it's not as obvious, is that although we're a community, we have other communities that we connect to, and we continue to move through life and build our community. I was just talking to one of my brothers from high school, from the football team. He was talking about his network and his community that he has now. So this whole village to raise a child, not only to raise a child, it takes a village to raise an adult, right? We, as a community, there's power and there's strength in it. And it's something that I just really wanted to impress upon and underscore today. So this next piece says, never forgetting the seeds of success and who made it. And I just mentioned about the seeds. So I want you all to think about this. You have a seed of success for somebody. I want you to, you can put your hand up like this just for a brief moment. And I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, you have the seed of success for somebody. It's true. Because if you think about it, I know you've heard the poem about the rose that's grown from the concrete, all those things. It's not possible without these seeds of success. I remember the Norristown Skies is where my roof was at. I remember being at work, talking to one of the older people when I was working at Wendy's, and them giving me little bits and pieces on life, So we never know the impact, whether it's in a formal or informal sense. All of these things make a difference. I remember one time I was actually about to ride my bike up one street in Norristown, and an older gentleman, he said, "You sure you want to go up that street?" So we never know the seeds that we're planting. And I really think that's important, because it's not always in a formal fashion. So the last thing that I want to kind of cover here is it's kind of coming back to education, because I'm an education person. I was told that I could do it a lot of times throughout my tenure in school, but I don't want us to continue to tell our youth that you can do it, you can do anything. We have to be a little smarter about that. I'll give you an example. When I was working as a Fox School of Advising, I would have students that were busting their butt trying to become an accounting major or what have you. And there would be certain people that say you can do it, and other people that said you couldn't do it to those students. But it wasn't about us telling the students that they can do it. It was about us asking them questions about how they were going to do it. And if we were thinking, oh, that's hard, that's easy, that's so limiting just to say hard or easy, I would ask students, you want to do accounting? How much time do you have next semester? What's your work schedule look like? How do you organize your time? So when we're talking to our youth and we're educating our youth about what they can do, I think we mean well with the messages to our community of we can do it, but what's the actual granular pieces of that to where we can really say, okay, well, you don't really want to spend a lot of time? We want to work with you. What's behind that? Asking more questions, having a deeper conversation so that we can really do it, because there is power in being motivated by adults in the community. And throughout my time in school, I was able to develop the muscles that helped me power through, but a lot of those muscles I was working on with those seeds that was planted in me in the community, the seeds that I talked about a little earlier. So then I end the poem, as you all see with the poem, I end with, I repeat again, many say that, many wonder if there's a village raising child. Is there truth in that? Proud product of my environment, yes, I'm proof of that. And I wanted to underscore that again, because what's going on at this day and age there is communities that are grieving right now, as you all know. There are communities around the country that are really, in shambles because of the recent happenings, and there are communities that are standing up, taking stands, and there will be sit-ins, lay-ins, all kinds of actions that are taken to try to fight some of the monstrosities that have been happening. But I wanted to provide you all with and I do social justice research, and I didn't want to get up here and teach about stuff, but I figured with this piece, I wanted to provide it for you, with something that's called the social change model. And then if you are interested in that, just know that you're part of social change, because they say for change to happen, and this is research and studies, to go into this, and for change to happen, there has to be action at the individual, from person to person, the community, and the systemic levels. So when people are thinking about issues at hand, and they're thinking, oh, I have no role in the solution, or when the solution seems too colossal, I think a lot of times the solution is realizable if we think about the levels in which we can attack and approach. So one of the things that I've seen on television is there's been, rioting and there's been looting and there's been protests, and everyone has their different opinions on those, and I think that that's fine. But one of the things I like to tell my students is that think about the bull in the ring with the matador. Think about how strong that bull is. Strong, very strong. But think about how the bull's strength is canceled out by the anger, by the movement that's not cohesive and calculated. So think about the power of a community, that power that we have as a community, and what we can do if it's cohesive and it has the education behind it, etc. So for the folks who work with you, in the youth in the room, just for everyone, education is not for me about just, I'm getting my degree, so that I can have these degrees to keep me warm. That was a Kanye reference. I don't know if any of you listen to that stuff. But it's more for having the knowledge and the perspective to be able to have a dialogue across lines with the person with an opinion that you disagree with. Those are the muscles that education will give you, those analytical abilities. How can we build bridges? Because we're going to need to attack these problems. Some of this isn't like it's definitely a lot of racist undertones to what's been happening, but it's not a black or a white problem. It's a humankind against an oppressive system problem. It's a humankind against an oppressive system problem. And if we get caught in not recognizing some of the strength that we have as our communities to educate our children right now, this is a prime opportunity to educate. Because if I'm watching with a little kid and we're watching TV and they're saying, hey, what's going on? And I ask them this one question, I think it may change their life. I'm not quite sure what's going on myself, but wouldn't you like to find out? Have you ever thought about being a lawyer? Because they study that kind of information. They know the law. Imagine a life that you can change by inversing that pain and that anger from young folks and encouraging them to get educated. Imagine what it would do to yourself if you reflected on how education can help you. So before I close out, I wanted to definitely highlight the many different layers of social change and let you know as a community that you have a huge role in social change. It's the community level. It's the individual, but it's the community and the systemic level. So it's about doing your part. Some of you are hitting it on all angles. Some of you are involved in local, you're involved in local and state and federal government in some kind of way. But some of you are just doing things individually, and that's okay. But we recognize these pieces to social change and what we can do in our community, and that the community is that glue in the middle between the individuals and the systems. We can recognize that, wow, we're really needed. So that question about does a community, does a village still raise a child is something that we should stop asking ourselves. But I would like us to take a moment of silence for all of the lives that have been lost through injustices, not just of what's happening in New York or in Ferguson, but there have been lives that have been lost for years. And I don't want to discredit or dishonor any particular individual by not saying all the names. So what I want us to do is I want us to think in this moment of silence, but I want it to be a contemplative, prayerful moment of silence. Because sometimes a moment of silence, you're just silent and then you can keep it moving. But no, in this contemplative prayerful, we're being prayerful about solutions that can be on the horizon, but we're also being contemplative about our role, right? So I'm hoping you're thinking about what commitment you're making. You're already here. You've made the greatest commitment, but what additional commitment are you really going to be intentional about in terms of knowing that you really play a role? I'm proof that you play a role, and I'm not, this is not to sound in any kind of way, I'm proof that individuals like you play a role. So let's just take a moment of silence and think prayerfully and contemplatively about the change that we want to see and what role that you play. Thank you. So I encourage you to continue the conversations about these different levels of social change, because we definitely are at an event that is one of the major juggernauts for social change in this area, Norristown Men of Excellence. These brothers saw that, well, you know, my brothers, they saw, wow, let's do something about it. And there's so much power in this room right now from you all being here, and there's so much power in what we have. Some of you may have heard this quote before, but I'll say it, and I want to make an alteration before I leave. The quote is an age-old saying that says that we stand on the shoulders of those that come before us. Raise your hand if you've heard that before. I want to alter that and amend that, because I don't think it really gives enough honor and respect to what you all do. So my alteration to this is that we stand on the shoulders of those who come before us with our community behind us. Because when I think about my community behind me, I think about the fuel. I'm fueled by the Norristown community and, you know, all those individuals who planted seeds for my success. So I want you to turn to your neighbor. I know I like to do a lot of active learning. I told you I didn't want to teach too much today. I want you to repeat after me when you turn to your neighbor, so y'all can really get this. And I want you to say the quote with me, and I'll give it to you one more time. It's, we stand on the shoulders of those that come before us with our community behind us. So you can turn to your neighbor and we'll do it together. We stand on the shoulders of those that come before us with our community behind us. So I would like to thank you all for having me up here today. And let's just say peace and blessings to you all. And I really am humbled to be able to share a little bit with you. There's so much to talk about, but I just really thank the brothers from the Norristown Men of Excellence and my family, my mother for being here, my sister, my wife, all of my homeboys, homegirls. So God bless you all.